Institute of Play's webinar series that lets us share the work we do here with you. I'm Amna Siddiqui, the producer and moderator of this program. Today we'll be demoing Playforce, one of the Institute's newest learning environments for kids, parents, and teachers. And I want to remind everyone that we'll be revealing the URL of Playforce's beta site right after the end of this episode, so be sure to stick around for that. If at any point you'd like to ask the panelists a question, just click on the blue participate text under this video on the right-hand side. We'll be spending the last 15 minutes of the webinar answering your questions during the Q&A portion. So let's meet today's speakers. We'll be hearing from the team who developed and designed Playforce today. And amid our experts, we also have some of our wonderful interns here joining us who helped design and test Playforce. So it would be terrific if everyone could briefly introduce themselves. I guess, Scott, you're on the right-hand side. Can we start with you?
Sure. So I'm Scott Price, and I was basically the technical producer, and I've been working with on Playforce since we got it started. So I'll be introducing some of the history of it in a little bit. But yes, I manage the technical team implementing the site.
Awesome. Greg?
My name is Greg Jafra. I'm a game designer at the Institute of Play, and I kind of brought a little bit of expertise about games to the development of the site, and also a little bit about thinking about how to make it into a sort of a playful experience.
Great. Criswell?
Hi, I'm Criswell Lappin. I'm the creative director here at the Institute of Play. So I was the lead on the creative side and worked with the Eline team to develop the idea development portion of the site.
Awesome. And Brendan?
Hi, my name is Brendan Trombley. I'm also a game designer with Institute of Play. I normally work within Quest to Learn, the game-based learning school that Institute of Play helped create. So I brought, with an additional to the game design experience, I also brought kind of the connection to the school and a bit of an educational flavor as well.
Awesome. And Bob?
Hi, I'm Bob Holling. I am the experience designer here at Institute of Play, and I worked with Criswell and the rest of the team to figure out and plan out the user interaction patterns for the site.
Great. And now for our three interns. Let's start with you, Liam.
Hi, I'm pretty much just an intern. My name is Lynn Smith. I worked on the art, on some of the UI design, and pretty much just did a lot of work implementing games and odd jobs.
Awesome. And last but not least, we have Rocco and Ronan.
Hi, I'm Rocco Ronaldo, and I'm an intern at Institute of Play, and we worked on Playforce and adding games to it.
Hi, I'm Ronan Day-Lewis, and yeah, I've been interning here and helping just kind of put together a lot of games on Playforce and helping in odd jobs around the place, and yeah, just things like that.
All right, great. All right, so let's get started. Scott, I want to start with you. As project manager for Playforce, I bet you have a pretty thorough understanding of the project's history, and I'm wondering if you could talk about where the idea of Playforce came from.
Certainly. It's a couple of years old. A few years ago, as the Quest to Learn school was getting started, the Institute of Play ran a short summer program. I believe that it might have been called Playforce, at least by the time it was done, bringing in students to play games and reflect on their experiences and think about what they really learned from it. And it was an effort to try to understand how games, even games that weren't meant for learning explicitly, connected and taught skills. So fast forward a couple of years with the school established, last year we saw the need for something like what we'd done with Playforce in a larger context, and I think Greg's going to explain a little bit about the need for it.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things we recognize is that people don't tend to take games very seriously as learning environments. There's a lot of learning that goes on in games and the way people play, and so when with Playforce was sort of a chance to start to highlight that, and also to make not only to sort of highlight the learning that was taking place in games, but also make players reflect on what they were doing a little bit, and then have educators and players work together to sort of build this big, interesting database of information. Because right now, like there's not a really good clearinghouse for where you can go find a lot of that information, and people sort of feel unfamiliar about games and how to express themselves when they think about learning and what's going on.
Yeah, there were two. The original project was neat, and we ended up with some games connected to some learning topics, but it called out a couple of real challenges for getting that message that games can teach in these other ways out there. One is that people aren't used to looking at games in quite this way, and so we need to build a community that knew how to talk about it. The original database was also kind of confusing. We didn't know how to connect to particular topics, and we didn't know what topics needed and would be useful for educators and parents to go looking for. So this project has been a lot of research on figuring out all of those things and trying to also really build the community, a community of folks who not only know how to reflect on their games and the learning that's already happening within those games, but also then to get that community out there talking about it and to bring other folks in so that we can really get the word out there.
Yeah, and just to sort of add on to something that Scott was saying, this sort of notion that in many ways that there's a little bit of experiment with this, like this connection between like the learning that takes place in a game and sort of the standards and what's really important to educators is something that we're trying to figure out. And, you know, it's a very hard sort of thing to map together. So as sort of Playforce grows and as all the players and educators start using it, we'll really start to see like how these things map together, how people see those connections forming. And that'll be a really interesting thing to see as the site evolves.
So, Brendan, I understand that there's a partnership that's been formed between the Playforce environment and Quest to Learn, which is the public school here in New York City where you work at as a game designer. So I'm wondering if you could briefly talk about that.
Sure, of course. So this partnership between Quest to Learn and Institute Play is a very long, ongoing partnership, and it really helps us on like a whole number of levels. One of the really useful things is that we have a kind of like a test bed of students and teachers to be able to sort of use as play testers or people that can give us feedback or just kind of any other even collaborators. And so this large community, even parents as well, parents, teachers, students, they all having them kind of available to us allows us to really get straight to our core audience and have our core audience participate directly with us in creating products like Playforce. We have a club called Playforce Club at the school, and it kind of functions very similar to how Scott was describing the original Playforce gatherings in which kids are playing games and then they're reflecting on the games and they're figuring out what they're learning and figuring out what they like, dislike about the games and learning how to really think and talk critically about the games that they're playing. This club right now is a weekly after-school experience, and members from both Institute of Play and staff members from Quest to Learn are both helping run the club. And so far, I think we have like almost 20 students doing that every week, playing different iPad or mobile games that we select. And then they have been filling out kind of a custom worksheet that allows them to choose their own categories and rate those categories. And as the Playforce site develops, we'll also be able to have them actually use the site and participate and really test it out from like the perspective of a younger student. These are students aged 6th grade and 7th grade, I believe, right now. We actually have 3 Quest to Learn students here, our interns. They are real-life Quest to Learn students. They're in 9th grade right now, so they've been with us for quite a while. I wanted to ask you guys, what did you guys think of being? What did you think of being a part of the project team? How was it for you? I can.
I thought that it was an interesting experience being part of the project because we got to see the project develop from when we first went into it to when we left it, and I think it was a fun and nice learning experience.
What do you think, Ronan?
Well, I think it was really interesting and fun experience because we got to play different roles in the kind of development of different things for IOP, and just like, yeah, just it was fun being part of the team and collaborating with everyone.
What was one of your favorite roles that you played?
One of my favorite things was I liked working on Playforce a lot, and I also liked doing like small video projects and stuff that were for like Playforce and for other things. It was fun.
To kind of add on, I really got to be there. I got to work on Playforce during the summer a little bit, and I really found it I really think it's interesting seeing kind of the development from a pretty bare-bones site to a really fleshed out site, as a lot of people will see. And it's just seeing the development, I got to work a lot with Aaron. He is not here, unfortunately, but I got to work with him a lot and doing some kind of design of the site, and it just seeing a little project just going from something really small to something really, really amazing is just one of the things that you can't really get anywhere else other than helping design a site. So that's what I really found interesting.
That's great, guys. So there's obviously a real need for a database like this one to exist. Now, Criswell, I want to turn to you, and I'm wondering if you could tell us more about Playforce, the specifics of it. If you could break down for us what it is and what it does.
Sure. The first thing I wanted to do was to thank the members of the team that actually aren't part of this conversation right now. There were 3 people who played a huge role in the design and development of this project. Aaron Kapoor, who Liam mentioned earlier, carried a massive weight on his shoulders as far as the design of the site. And then Tim Turnay and Ian Gill, both over at Eline. Without those 3 guys, we would not be where we are for sure. So I wanted to make sure that they get their props before I dive into my spiel. So the idea statement about Playforce is that it's a community built for and by players, parents, educators to discover and share learning experiences in games. And it really distills down to 2 basic points. It's a searchable database of games with learning potential, and it's a place that players can go to share what they know. Basically, the experience has 3, what we sort of distill down to 3 key attributes. The first is that Playforce promotes player-generated game perspectives. So if you think about how perspectives on games with learning potential are usually pushed out into the learning space, they usually suffer from a key pitfall, which is that they're typically about the good that should come from gameplay that as viewed by adults and so-called experts, as opposed to what players actually get out of engaging with the game. But Playforce puts the experience of the players front and center, so that parents and educators and those that are interested in what is truly meaningful know what to expect from the games they use. And then those perspectives are validated by the larger community, which is made up, as we've already mentioned, of players and educators. So that gives us a sense of credibility to the perspectives that are embedded on the site. The second attribute is that Playforce is a game database that's searchable by standards and skills. So existing game reviews that are out there in the space often require the educators and parents sort of read between the lines and try to search out on their own to find a particular academic standards that is attached to an opinion. But we lead with searchable categorization of games by topics, and those topics are based on standards and skills. So we become an indispensable resource to educators and parents who are looking to use games in service of specific learning goals. And those topics are built off of Common Core standards, STEM, and 21st century skills. The third attribute that we should surface during this discussion is the fact that Playforce empowers players through an in-game experience. So we find that players, especially teens, often sense the learning potential in games, but they may lack critical tools to talk about that learning with other people in a language which professionals or other adults could understand. And Playforce offers these players the means to develop critical awareness around and to articulate the learning they're experiencing through the gameplay, through levels of training, tips that are integrated through key moments in the site. And it allows for users to grow within the site through an advancement system that rewards meaningful participation. So those are really that's really the top level information that sort of a need to know about diving into this experience that we've spent the last few months developing.
Great. So I think our viewers are probably now very curious to see what exactly the Playforce database looks like. So Bob, I think this is a great time if you want to give us the tour of Playforce.
Sure. Well, I will get us started. Can you guys hear me okay? Great. So let's do a little screen share, shall we? I'm going to find it. That's right. There we go. So this is the Playforce site. We're looking at the home page, which we have created as a set of channels. When you first come to the site, you'll see most popular at the top, the top row. And if you've ever experienced the Netflix interface for viewing movies, these channels can slide to the right and left. The ones that are the organization for most popular are most popular according to the number of perspectives that have been written about a game. So you can see Minecraft is quite popular, as is Portal and Carcassonne, the board game. And then the second two rows that we have here are picks from Mission Lab, which is the group that Brendan is involved with over at Quest to Learn. And then lastly, we've solicited some suggestions from the group that that's behind Minecraft EDU. And so they've also added some games that they think are great for learning. So that's the home page. You'll see next on our primary nav, we have a Find Games option, and that gives us a little drop down where we can type in a game or part of a game, for instance, and do a search. It also allows us to filter what we want to find by certain things like the types of media that might exist, or the learning topics, for instance. So here we do a quick search for Tetris, and we find that game in the system. If we continue on that top nav, we have there's an opportunity to explore learning topics. And these are, again, topics that are assigned by users to games, and then the perspective helps back up that opinion about a topic. And then lastly, if users are interested in contributing to the community and writing perspectives, we offer a way for new users to level up and learn what the components are of at least that we think are of a good perspective, and how you go through that process of writing a perspective. I think next we want to dig in and explore topics, and that's Mr. Scott. Yes.
Yeah. I just want to interrupt for 2 seconds, and
Sure.
I want to ask, what you're showing us, all of this is what our viewers will have access to after today's webinar. Is that correct?
That's exactly right.
Okay. All right. Cool. So anyway, Scott.
Sure. So we should bring Bob's screen back up. I think Bob's going to click through the site as I describe a little bit more about finding topics. Let me see. So There are a couple of ways to approach the site as Bob described. One is that you can go looking for a particular game, but the main way is that I'm going to talk about is to explore the set of topics that we hooked into the site, navigate through them and see whether that reminds you of a game that you might have something to say about. Or if you're an educator and you're looking and you are a specialist in a particular topic, that's a way to either go find games that relate to a topic that you care about, or to go find a topic that you might have something to contribute to. And I think the screen is not coming up for everyone. Amna, are you able to direct the Bob's screen?
I'm trying to. I'm clicking on it. Let's see. How about everybody tries to click on it, and we'll try that.
And someone will, yeah. If we click on Bob's little thumbnail, I think that we get his screen. I'm seeing it now, so I'm going to continue bravely.
Great.
So, Bob, why don't you click Explore Topics? There are two areas within there that two ways of viewing the set of topics. As we mentioned at the beginning, we've got two real kinds of topics, three actually, that you can navigate through. And this is to try to take the angle that's most comfortable for someone looking for any of a number of topics. If we click over into Hierarchy, I think that's a good one to look at first, because it shows some of the way that we structured this. So we included Common Core standards in there, and so we've got Math and English Language Arts, which are most prominent among the Common Core. We also added in a set of STEM standards. So we've got Science, Engineering, Technology, and then again Math there. And we also added in 21st century skills. We firmly believe, and we've watched over the various projects that led up to Playforce, that there are a number of skills that run across the entire public school curriculum, and that they've been most recently articulated as 21st century skills. These are things like planning and teamwork and coordinating and resilience and collaboration. So we wanted to put those in there as well. We have definitions for all of these down within the site. If you're not quite sure where the topic that you're looking for, where the topic that you've got in mind fits within the hierarchy. So this is one way to explore it. You can see this hierarchy, browse down through, see what fits, and clicking on any of those topics will take you in to one of them. Let's switch over to the popularity view. And this is showing just the topics that have been most discussed, most tied to the largest set of games, and we show them just in terms of raw popularity. I like this because it's kind of interesting to keep your pulse on your finger on the pulse of the community. Right now, there are very few games tied to the topics because we're just getting started. But this is where our interns have been phenomenally helpful, getting games into the system and then tying them with some topics. Let's click through to Math, and it's a good place to start. And scroll down a little bit so that we can see some of the other games, because we looked at Tetris before. So this, you may note the moment that you click in through a topic, this includes a whole bunch of games that you might not think are about or great for teaching math. One of the things I think that's really rich about Playforce as a project is these are things that folks have managed to bring out in their own gameplay, and then they've told the story about how they do it. So there are perspectives that read very much like relating an interesting time that someone had with a game. There are also perspectives that will end up reading almost like lesson plans. Here's how I brought out math in solitaire. There's a lot of math in solitaire, but it can take some work to bring it out and present it, and so the perspectives are there to help with that. So all of this is a way of browsing down through topics. One other way to look at this list, if we scroll back up to the top, or actually go back one screen, down at the bottom we have a big list of topics that don't yet have games tied to them, and right now the list is long because we're just getting started. But this is also an opportunity for people to join in on something that they're an expert in and that no one has heard about yet. And so we're really hoping that this section of the site will pull out the shy folks and encourage people to acknowledge expertise that they've got, both as subject matter experts, but also just as gamers who got something out of a game and want to share with the rest of the community what that was. In all of these cases, we're showing these thumbnails of the games, and we can go down and look at the game itself and then see topics within that. But I'm going to pass off to Criswell to discuss the game page and what's on there.
Thank you so much, sir. So we know all too well that there's a big chunk of our audience that is really passionate about particular games. And so we want to create a pretty clear vehicle for them to find those games and get to the game page experience so that they can add their perspectives to the site and build up the learning knowledge that is attached to that particular game. So let's go back to the home page. And as my partner in crime ever so astutely pointed out, you could either click through any of these individual game images that you see at the top in any of the channels to explore or get to a game page, if those happen to be surfaced here. Or if you have a particular game that you want to find, as the top line nav easily directs you, you can click on Find Games. And let's do a search for Call of Duty. So we're looking at our search results page, and you see the site has nine games that came back as a result of the Call of Duty search, and most of them don't have perspectives added yet. But up at the scroll up just a little bit more, and you'll see that you can go back and search again where Call of Duty is written. That search field is still there. You can save these tags sort of below the search icon. You can save these tags as your own channel, and eventually we'll be able to integrate that onto your personal homepage when you're logged in. There's a drop-down menu on the left-hand side in blue that allows you to filter the search results. If you wanted to add a couple of filters to this particular search, let's say that you were looking for a particular learning topic attached to the Call of Duty line, you could add that as a filter, and it would resort the search results by that filter. And if we close out on that and run back over to Call of Duty again, that's all right. And you see again, there are nine results that came back from our search. You get a really brief profile along with a screen capture of the game image. You get really top-level information within that profile. And then if you scrolled all the way to the bottom of the page, you also have a prompt that right now there are no learning topics associated with Call of Duty, but if you wanted to go down a different path and explore the list of topics, there's a link down there. We won't do that right now, but just pointing that out at the bottom is an additional resource. So I've decided that while I love me some Call of Duty, that I actually want to go back in and write about Tetris. So I'm going to do a search for Tetris. We know that's on the site already because Bob found it earlier, and we get our results here. This is the game that I'm looking for, Tetris. So if we click on that, we'll go to the Tetris game page. So starting from the top, you've got a lot of information here about Tetris. You've got a brief description You have the ability to the right of the name to save this as one of your favorite games. The icon sort of at the top, there's one that has a 2 next to it and one that has a 1 next to it. The top one gives you how many perspectives have been written about this game so far, and then below that is how many people have favorited this game. Underneath the game image, you get some top-line information about the game. And if you continue to scroll down, you see that we've started to get perspectives about added about Tetris, and right now both of them are within the same category. They're attached to math, or they've been tagged as math. And there's 2 there, and if we click on the top one, personality shown and how blocks are handled, we can see what Tyra from Saigon wrote about Tetris. We read through that, have a couple of options here. If we have a particular response to this perspective, we can comment on it in the field below. And to the right of the perspective, we have a couple of other options. If we think it's informative, we can vote this perspective informative. Below that, you could send a note to the author to tell them that you think the perspective is awesome. We can also flag it. This perspective is inappropriate, and you can also share it through Facebook and Twitter. Both of those will bring up the appropriate field. So let's just, for kicks, this perspective I think is pretty informative, so we're going to click on that top link. But I also have my own opinion on Tetris. So I'm going to scroll back to the top, and there's a big blue arrow in the top right corner where I can add my perspective to the site about Tetris. So we're going to click on that, and a modal pops up that allows you to go through a pretty simple 3-step process. We realize that participants and players might need a little bit of help in shaping their perspectives, and so we've tried to do a couple of things to add to the training and guide people through the process. There's a video on the top right that gives you just sort of an overall tips on how to add perspectives. We're not going to play that for you now, but if you were to go on the site, you'll recognize a couple of superstars that participated in building that video out, who you've heard from already. But if you click in what learning topics are relevant to your perspective, you'll see that field drops down, and it's organized hierarchically, just like the topics were in that section. You get a little tip on that top right corner in yellow that gives you some suggested topics based on what other people have written, and a couple of top-line questions to think about as you're trying to determine what topic that you want to attach to this game. So I played a little bit of Tetris yesterday, and I selected 2 topics. I'm going to select geometry, which is under math. You see it pop up in the field, and I'm also going to select a 21st century skill. I'm going to select adaptability. All right, and we'll close that out by clicking on the X. And then if I click into the body of your perspective, you'll see there's a prompt that's there already that says need help. Look to the right for a tutorial video, as well as a link to the training page. And then you see a different set of questions that pop up on the top right corner in yellow that help guide. They're meant to just help guide you as you go through the process of writing your perspective. So I won't go through the process of laboriously trying to craft a perspective in real time, but magically one will appear. Look at that. Whew. That was fast. Just stream of consciousness right there. So review that quickly. And then the last step is to give your perspective a title. Again, you see a different set of prompts around on the top right corner there in yellow. We found that actually coming up with a title before you write your perspective is sometimes a futile and somewhat weaker attempt. So we placed the title last in the experience because we felt like that we could better summarize what you've just done. So we crafted a title yesterday too, and we'll copy that into it. Tetris and the art of adaptability, and then we just click on publish. And once we click on publish, I believe if we scroll down, you will see that your perspective has been added to the experience. So 2 other topics have been added underneath the perspective on learning with Tetris title. So you'll see adaptability and geometry are there now, and Bob has a perspective that he's added to the site that any of you can jump on at 2:01 and tell him how informative and great you think that it is. And I think if you take a look also just at the top right corner, there's sort of an info bar that has Bob's name and some statistics. We talked a little bit about achievements and being able to level up, and that top right blue square is a notification tag, and it gives you a little bit of information about gaining some XP, some experience points for the actions that you just took, and that would be added to an overall score, which you see as 178 there in the middle, and there's a series of levels that will allow you to grow within the Playforce system.
I think there are 2 other little things to call out on the screen before we go. One is the difference between a perspective and a comment. We went back and forth about whether both of those things have a place in the discussion and experimented. And this is where we landed. Perspectives are the fundamental unit of the site. They're what tie together a topic, learning topic, and a game via someone's experience between those 2 things. And so that's the thing that you can vote up as being informative, and that you can congratulate as being super awesome. Comments then are a separate thing that are just about discussing how that perspective works or applies. And we expect some vigorous discussion. It'll be interesting as bolder connections between games and topics come out to see people arguing about whether that's really a good way to bring it out or whether there's a better topic that might apply given that experience. And so comments are for discussing that sort of thing. But because they're all about that one perspective and experience tying a game to a learning topic, you don't vote them up. And so that lets us surface the perspectives as the most important thing on the site. And another thing to note in the My Stream section is that behind that, part of the reason that we've done the notification system, that we've got the XP there, is because we're acknowledging that it takes a while to get good at this. And so there are more features that we unlock as you've been through the site more, do more things, and we know that you are awesome at this. So, marking someone else's perspective as super awesome will give them a few extra XP points because you're recognizing that they did a really good job in discussing these things. And so that whole structure is a way of seeing who's really learned to talk about this stuff. And then you can recognize that as you travel around the site and see that someone with a high experience level weighed in on this or voted something awesome. You may want to go check it out.
Yeah, that's a great point, Scott. I think we also recognize that as you're sharing your opinion on what you think is informative or not, or what is awesome or not, you're also credentialing the perspectives that are already written, and so within the categories, perspectives can rise and fall according to how many informative votes that they get. So that's a way that the community is credentialing the opinions that are being put forth on the site.
Yeah, and I quickly want to ask our interns about their own experiences with making perspectives and how the training helped them with creating perspectives. Can you guys talk about that for a bit?
Yeah, I think I'm going to start off here. Creating a perspective, we did one for Plants vs. Zombies, I believe, as well as a few others. But honestly, I really felt it was kind of really interesting to do because we had to look at a game in a completely new way instead of just a fun pastime to something that we could actually learn from. And it's kind of that looking at a game in an educational way that really changed the experience of it, and is really fundamental to the site, I believe. And the training for it is kind of important because it kind of tells you how you should kind of express it, but you still have the options to kind of share your opinion. And it helps you refine your opinion and show it in the best light and in the best way. So that's really my opinion on it.
Great. Rocco or Ronan?
I think that the training helped you get the idea of what a perspective was and how you could write like a meaningful perspective and not just a few words or a few sentences. I think it also helped you think of creative ways to choose topics for games that you might not have thought of before. And yeah.
So I didn't actually undergo the training, but I did make write a perspective on Plants vs. Zombies. And yeah, it really brought a lot of things to light about the game for me, and it made me think of it in a completely different way, and actually like contemplate what I've been doing and how that can help me learn new things. And yeah.
Did it change the way that you play games at all?
Well, I think that it probably, definitely for strategy games, it helped me kind of realize, it gave me a bit more insight on how I can do better in those games by implementing different learning topics like strategy and thinking ahead and planning.
And back to either Rocco or Ronan. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say it made me play the game, or it made me lose the game constantly, because I was spending so much time realizing what I was doing or trying to figure out what was educational, that I guess this is a really complicated skill that a lot of people, and it's really a skill that you have to learn, being able to play a game and understand its value and still being able to play the game while trying to figure out what you're doing. So that was really something really interesting that I completely messed up playing Plants vs. Zombies.
Because otherwise you would never have really messed up if you hadn't been.
Not really. Yeah. Not really.
And Rocco, what do you think the benefit for a site like Playforce is for you as a student?
I think the benefit for a site like Playforce is that a lot of kids see games as a way to like almost waste time or avoid doing something. And this will make them think of games as something they can be excited about and learn about, or learn from. They might used to think of games as something that you couldn't possibly learn from, and now they know that if they look at them in the right way, then they can learn a lot.
That's great. I just want to give you guys a really special shout out, because it's not often that you come across a set of 3 ninth graders who's so engaged and enthusiastic about helping build a project like this out. And it was really, I think, insightful for the whole project team to have you guys come in on during your time on Wednesdays and contribute to the site. So big thanks from the IOP team here.
Well, thanks.
Thank
you.
Yeah, that's right. So we only have a couple more minutes left for discussion, but I quickly wanted to talk again about Playforce on Facebook. I understand that there's a way to use Playforce on Facebook, and people can make and join their own clubs. And Brendan, I was wondering if you could elaborate on this and talk about why you guys decided to use Facebook.
Yeah, sure. So this is something that Greg and I actually collaborated on a bit. So Greg, you can feel free to chime in whenever you feel like it. So on Facebook, we have created a Playforce page titled Playforce Clubs. And this is kind of like Playforce's home on Facebook. It's sort of the hub for all of the clubs that other people out in the world can create, and then use this page as sort of like the home, as sort of like a mothership, I guess you could say. So what this page allows us to do is to issue multiple challenges over the course of a period of time, like say every month or so. And these challenges might involve, sending out a call to action to write about a specific game or a specific topic, or possibly to just produce like a certain number of perspectives, or anything that we think of or that we think that the site could use a boost from. We can issue a challenge, and then people who decide to go out and make their own Playforce clubs can then choose to follow that challenge and use that as a way to sort of coordinate their activities as a group. So those who are interested in doing Facebook Playforce clubs, all they have to do is create a group on Facebook and join that group, and basically elect someone who can be like their secretary or their leader, who then keeps an eye on this particular Playforce Club's page, and then can inform the group when a new challenge is brought out. And since we have that oh-so-handy Facebook sharing ability on perspectives, it should be very easy to write your perspective on the site to fulfill the challenge, and then share that perspective on Facebook in the group, and then the leader of that group can then, even if they choose to, share links to the perspectives on the Playforce Club's page itself. And that allows us to feature really well-written perspectives, winners of challenges, and so on. So that's kind of the overview. Greg, did you have anything else you thought we should add?
No, I mean that's a really good sort of summation of it. And I guess the only thing I would add is sort of like why Facebook. And part of that is like this idea of taking what people write on Playforce should really sort of be shared with the world, and we are excited for people to come to Playforce and read what's there, but also want people to sort of take what they've written there and think of that as like going out into other contexts as well. So that was a big important part of looking at why we chose Facebook is like where are people now, and then how do we sort of bring the learning and some of the information that's being shared here on Playforce out there to the world.
Okay, great. So we need to move on to the Q&A portion. But Scott, if you want to quickly talk about Playforce's sponsors.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting and fun things about this project and the chance to sort of revisit that old project and write it large has been all of involved. It's been amazing working with our interns. The core of the team has been the Institute of Play, working with Eline Media, designing and building the site together. And that's given us a chance to draw on the Institute of Play's experience with games learning in all kinds of contexts, and Eline Media's development experience, and even we're hoping to do some tie-ins with GameStar Mechanic and that other project that is very much about games and learning in a different way. But then also the whole project was funded by the Gates Foundation and with a grant from the ESA, the Entertainment Software Association. And I think that it's neat having their support, because we're tying together the professional game industry, who has more to teach than they often understand or that people know about, with research on how games are being used. I think it's neat to, I should not only give a shout out to our funders, but also I think it's a really neat partnership that we've got, and we're seeing the fruits of so many different perspectives coming into the site.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to move on into the Q&A portion. The first question is from Robert, and Robert asks, do you think it's possible to use in classrooms similar games that could be really helpful for math topics like algebra, geometry, statistics, and science learning? And could there be a good mapping between games and curriculum topics in high school?
I think I could jump in on this one. Interestingly, part of my job, since I work within the Quest to Learn school space, as a game designer, part of my job is to be really well-versed in all the games that are out there and kind of, in my mind, do that connection and suggest games that a teacher might be able to use for a specific learning topic. So Playforce kind of, in some ways, fills that gap that may exist if there's not a game designer situated in your school. Playforce is a resource for someone who might want to say, like, hey, I've got this topic. I'd like to maybe try and use a game to teach it in my classroom. Maybe I can go to Playforce, look up that topic, and see what games that people say are really good for it. And maybe I can use that as a launching point to roll out that game in my own classroom. So yeah, absolutely. It's definitely very possible, and we actually do that at Quest to Learn.
Awesome. Does anybody have anything else to add? Nope. Okay. Well, then I guess I'll move on to the second question. This one comes from Mike, and Mike asks, how do I convince my already tight budgeted school system to buy computers capable of running things like Portal 2 or the Unreal SDK? And can you give me some ideas on how to sell this?
I can jump in briefly, although I've just got one perspective on that. We're trying to address that with the site in two ways. One is the site, although we didn't dig down into choosing into creating a new game in the system, we're not just limiting ourselves to video games. And so I think there's potential to consider board games and other games that don't take expensive hardware to play. So that's one thing. But because there's so much fun happening in Portal 2 and things like the Unreal SDK, that's still an issue. And what we're hoping with the site for a lot of folks, the problem right now getting funding to bring games and some of this technology into the classroom is tying it to the standards. And seeing how a particular game like Portal 2 is actually going to teach something. There's a difference between a game sort of requiring something and being able to pull out the skill that was practiced in the game and be conscious of it as something that you've learned. And we're hoping that, especially as educators participate and bring in their own perspectives, that the site will start to fill up with perspectives that could be then presented to an administrator to say, no, really, this does relate. Look, here are 15 different ways that people have tied this game to this topic. And you know what? Because it's on the Common Core, or because it's a 21st century skill, and our school has said that we're trying to follow that, this site is pulling together support for specifically how people have already tied this game to that topic that I'm supposed to teach. So that's our hope there, is that in one way we'll do an end run. We'll see how people are already using it. And so you can present actual data. And then the other approach is a variety of games, even games that may not be as expensive, but also provide the opportunity to teach that topic.
And just to build out that user scenario a little bit off of what Scott said, if you can imagine if you have an understanding of those topics that you want, that you think Portal 2 teaches, and you go through Playforce and see the topics that are attached to Portal, you're going to get some cross-referencing to some other opportunities to teach that learning topic through other means. So, and eventually, I would imagine that you would be able to surface either some much lower cost games as you go through. The idea of probability or geometry. You'll start to see what other games are relevant to those topics, and there might be something that, in the meantime, while you're strategizing how to acquire the funding, there might be a lower cost solution that builds you a bridge to that.
Thanks, Criswell. And given where the Playforce site is now, what's the most useful thing people can do to be a part of this experience?
I would say join us on our adventure, and add perspectives about games that you use in your classroom, or that you play, or that your kids play, that you think are really good, that support learning in specific ways, and tell us about that and share that perspective with the rest of the community.
And if you're on Facebook, go and join that group. Like it. Add your voice there. We'll be organizing challenges, I believe, and periodically issuing them to focus on particular games or particular topics. And the Facebook group will be a good way to keep on top of that.
Great.
And the site's all about building a community. So if you have like-minded people that share your interest and want to share their perspectives on how games help people learn, share the site with them.
You know, in a similar vein, I mean, this is all about getting that conversation going about, you know, what we can learn from the games that we're playing. So, I mean, even just having these conversations with people out in the world is helpful for us. This is almost like a cultural shift that's we're trying to help, you know, foster here, in which games are taken, you know, more seriously as a medium and as a teaching tool. And so the more that we can be discussing these things and really sharing these ideas, the better it is for everyone involved.
All right, thanks, Brendan. All right, I think we're going to wrap up. We're almost out of time. If you'd like to continue the discussion, feel free to post your thoughts in the comment section at the bottom of this page. I want to remind our viewers that we'll be giving out the URL of the Playforce beta site as soon as this webinar is over. So just remember to refresh this page a few times, and you should see a link right below this video in big text. So yeah, I want to thank everyone for joining us this afternoon, especially our interns. You guys are awesome. So for everyone, for our viewers, tune in to the next episode of Playtime Online, which airs Wednesday, January 23rd, 2013, next year. Our design team will be back to discuss another new and exciting Institute of Play creation. This one's called Game Kit. Please sign up for our mailing list if you haven't already. For all the latest things on Playtime, just click the Join Us at the top of this page. So yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. And if you like what we're doing, please spread the word. Have a great afternoon. Bye.
Thanks, Amna.
Thanks, Amna.
Bye.
Thanks,